Tonight, perhaps your mind is troubled by threads that seem hopelessly tangled, the silent ache of an unspoken word, the persistent sting of a memory that refuses to fade. We often seek permanence in the places where change is most constant, in the fluid currents of the human heart, in the dynamic, unpredictable dance of two lives. Yet, the suffering we feel in relationship is not a failure of love itself, but a simple misunderstanding of its true, interwoven nature. It is the clinging to what was, or the struggle against what is, that brings the exhaustion that keeps us from rest. Welcome, friend, to Lotus Whisper. Tonight, we turn our gaze inward, gently exploring the profound Buddhist wisdom regarding our deepest human connections, our loves, our families, and our friendships. We will use the deep, soothing truths of karma, which is intention, and interbeing, which is connection, to untangle the knots of worry that keep us awake. We will seek not final answers, but a wider, more compassionate space within which to hold the beautiful, messy, and impermanent relationships that shape us into who we are. Allow the weight of your day and the weight of your worries to soften and settle now. Before we drift deeper into the silence and the unfolding story, please take a quiet moment to subscribe and allow this gentle current of peace to reach others who may be searching in the dark. Part 1. The illusion of fixed love. Settle deeper now, sinking into the soft cushion of the present moment. Feel the gentle weight of the sheets upon you, the steady rhythm of your own breath, a perfect cycle of receiving and letting go. Tonight, as we begin this journey into the wisdom of the heart, let us first turn our attention to the great and unavoidable truth that defines all existence, anicca, the deep, ceaseless flow of impermanence. The trouble with love, the trouble with family, the trouble with any deeply woven connection is that we ask of it a quality it simply does not possess. We ask for stillness from the river. We ask for a fixed, unchanging light from the flame. Our hearts, in their beautiful and vulnerable desire for safety, attempt to build a permanent shelter, a fortress of us, in a world that is inherently designed for movement. Think of the ache that keeps you awake. It is often not the event itself, but your resistance to the event. It is the part of your mind that keeps whispering, "It should not be this way. They should not have changed. This feeling should not have left." The Buddha taught that suffering arises from craving, from tanha, the thirsty desire to hold on to what is pleasant and to push away what is not. When applied to relationship, this craving takes the subtle, intoxicating form of believing that the form of the connection, its structure, its title, its daily routine, is the essence of the love. We confuse the vessel for the water. Imagine a single, exquisite rose. You admire its velvet petals, its perfect structure, the delicate scent that rises from its center. Your mind, in its clinging mode, immediately wants to stop the clock. It wants the rose to be exactly this way, eternally. But the rose knows a different truth. It knows that its beauty is entirely dependent upon its process of becoming. It must open, it must breathe, it must eventually drop its petals to feed the earth. If you try to stop the rose from fading, you are asking it to stop living. In the same way, the person you loved yesterday is not entirely the person you see today. And the love you experienced last year has already moved, shifted, and matured into something else. This is not a failure. It is the fundamental nature of life. A Zen master, perhaps seated on a cold rock overlooking a valley shrouded in mist, might observe this human struggle with a quiet, knowing smile. He would not judge your pain, but simply point to the changing mist, saying, "Look, even the mountains wear a different face each moment. The struggle is in demanding that your partner, your child, your parent, or your friend remain a fixed portrait in time. The person who once offered you certainty, the person who once met your needs perfectly. But life is not a portrait. It is a film. And if you try to stop the film to cherish a single perfect frame, you miss the rest of the story. You miss the beauty of the unfolding. You miss the subtle, quiet dignity of letting go. The moment a relationship begins to feel rigid, to feel like a duty or a fixed role, is often the moment its life force begins to diminish. You are no longer relating to the person who is in front of you, the ever-changing, evolving, fallible human being. But you are relating to the idea of that person, the static projection you hold in your mind. This idea, this expectation, is the cage you build, and when the living person inevitably steps outside the bars of your expectation, you feel the sharp pain of betrayal, when in truth, they are simply moving along the current of their own existence. This is the profound realization offered by Anicca in the realm of the heart. We cannot hold the light, but we can be warmed by its presence while it shines. Let us soften the grip on the story now. Let the story of how it should have been, or why it failed, begin to dissolve into the silence. The pain you carry often has a dual nature. There is the pain of the loss itself, the genuine absence of a loved connection. This is inevitable, natural, and should be met with deep compassion, like tending to a physical wound. But there is a second, often heavier layer of pain, the pain of clinging. This clinging is the unnecessary suffering. It is the mental argument with reality. Think of it as trying to hold on to water with a closed fist. The harder you squeeze, the more quickly the water slips between your fingers, leaving you with nothing but a damp, aching palm. If you had simply opened your hand, the water could have flowed gently over your skin, refreshing you, and then continued on its way. The refreshing quality is the essence. The act of holding is the source of the disappointment. When a relationship ends or changes drastically, we feel as though a part of our own identity has been ripped away. This is because we often mistake the other person's presence as a pillar supporting our sense of self. We say, "I am a husband. I am a devoted daughter. I am her best friend." When the role dissolves, the mind panics, crying out, "Who am I now?" The wisdom of the Dharma gently reminds us that your true self, your fundamental nature, your awareness, has never been and could never be defined by the external roles you play. These roles are beautiful, temporary garments you wear, but they are not the skin and bone of your being. You are the awareness that witnesses the garment being put on and taken off. Sink into the silence and allow this truth to wash over the ache in your chest. The essential you, the capacity for peace, for kindness, for being present, remains completely untouched by the coming and going of any person. The Zen tradition, in its practical wisdom, often uses the image of the breath to teach impermanence. The inhale is a commitment to receiving, to taking in life. The exhale is a radical, total commitment to letting go. They are not two separate things, but two sides of the same continuous, life-giving process. You never try to hold the inhale. You trust the exhale will follow. You never try to stop the exhale. You trust the next inhale will arrive. Our relationships are exactly like this breath. There are moments of connection, the shared laughter, the quiet understanding, the mutual support. These are the inhales. They fill us with joy and energy. And there are moments of tension, separation, disagreement, or transition. These are the exhales. They require us to release energy, to create space, to let go of control. If you try to live only on the inhale, trying to keep the good times fixed and frozen, you quickly become suffocated, anxious, and rigid. The mind that resists the exhale is a mind in terror of change. The heart that resists the exhale is a heart that holds its sorrow close, refusing to soften. Tonight, as your body relaxes, practice meeting the feeling of separation or the feeling of tension with the same gentle allowance that you give to your exhale. It is necessary. It is natural. It is making space for the next cycle. The difficulty in relationships often stems from our misunderstanding of love as ownership. We begin with the feeling of connection, which is beautiful, but soon the mind translates it into possession. This is my partner. This is my time. This is my family structure. The koan tradition, in its succinct, sharp wisdom, often aims to shatter this illusion of ownership. Imagine a Zen student complaining to their master about a troublesome family member. The student is agitated, reciting a long list of grievances. They do this. They say that. They make my life difficult. The master simply listens, sipping tea. When the student finishes, the master places the empty cup down and says only this: "If you are carrying them, who gave you permission to put them down?" The student is stunned. They realize they have been carrying a heavy emotional burden, the expectation, the resentment, the fixed image of what the other person should be that they willingly picked up. They feel they must carry it. The master's question reveals the truth. The weight is the weight of your own clinging, your own story about the other person. You do not carry the person. You carry your attachment to a certain outcome with them, and this attachment is impermanent and can be released. The release is not a rejection of love. It is the purification of love. When you release the need to control the outcome, when you release the need for the other person to be a fixed point in your universe, you give them the greatest gift, the freedom to be truly themselves. And in that same moment, you give yourself the freedom to be truly present, unburdened by past expectations or future fears. This practice of non-clinging is not coldness. It is a profound form of respect. It respects the other person's journey. It respects the flow of their own karma. It respects the truth of anicca that moves through them. In the Buddhist understanding, you are never truly losing a person because you never truly possessed them in the first place. You were simply two luminous, impermanent beings, traveling side by side for a time, sharing a stretch of the path. The memory, the lessons, the kindness, the light they brought into your life, that essence remains woven into the fabric of who you are. That is the karma you carry forward, the enduring impact of shared experience. But the form of the walking together, the physical presence, the daily routine that is the leaf that must return to the earth so the tree can produce new life. Let the image of a slowly falling leaf come to your mind now. It has completed its season. It did not cling to the branch, though the wind tried to make it stay. It did not fear the ground, though it knew its form would soften and fade. It simply relaxed its grip and allowed gravity, the great force of nature, to carry it. The falling is not a failure. It is the final, perfect act of its season. It feeds the roots for the next life. Your sorrow now is the gentle process of your own falling leaf. Do not struggle against the current of grief. Do not judge the tenderness of your heart. Simply observe the sensation of the falling. Observe the lightness that might come if you simply relax your hold on the story. The great Zen poet Thich Nhat Hanh spoke often of a deep love that is based on interbeing, on the understanding that we are co-arising with all things. This understanding is the counterpoint to the clinging mind. When you see your loved one not as a separate entity to be controlled or possessed, but as a composite of thousands of non-self elements, their parents, the food they ate, the sun that shone on them, the words they read, you realize they were never truly an object to be held. They are a stream of conditions, and you are another stream. When two streams meet, a beautiful confluence occurs, a dynamic merging, but streams do not stop flowing for one another. They simply adjust their course, often merging again, sometimes moving into separate valleys, but always connected to the same source, the vast ocean of existence. To see a relationship through the lens of impermanence is to fully awaken to its preciousness in the present moment. You realize that every shared cup of tea, every quiet glance, every moment of effortless understanding is a fleeting, non-repeatable miracle. This realization does not lead to panic or anxiety, but to a deep, profound appreciation. It softens your judgment. It encourages you to speak with kindness now. It compels you to forgive now. Why wait until the form changes to realize the value of the essence? Let us take a quiet moment and allow this ancient truth, the truth of anicca, to penetrate the deepest layers of your tension. Breathe in, acknowledging the ache of clinging. Breathe out, allowing the story of permanence to soften. The world is not ending. A condition is simply changing. And just as the river finds its new course, your heart, too, will find its new expression of peace. You are being asked to trust the flow, not the form. You are being asked to become like the shore, stable, present, receiving the wave in its entirety, and then quietly releasing it, knowing that another wave, another moment, is already arising. The illusion is that you can stop the wave. The truth is that you can learn to surrender to the ocean. We spend so much emotional energy fighting the natural process of unfolding and decay. We fight the fading light of connection. We fight the distance that grows in a family. We fight the shift in a child's needs. This fight consumes the energy that should be used for living fully now. Tonight, let us choose peace over control. Let us choose acceptance over resistance. Let us choose the deep, quiet dignity of watching the rose petals fall, knowing that in the falling there is a profound, necessary beauty. This is the first step toward true rest, the soft recognition that everything is already moving, and that safety is not found in the fixity of things, but in the flexible, boundless nature of your own awareness. Allow your eyes to soften behind your eyelids. Let your forehead relax. Let the gentle current of impermanence carry away the tight, hard edges of your expectations. There is nothing to hold on to. There is nothing to prove. There is only this vast, gentle now, unfolding, shifting, always new. Part 2. Dependent Origination. The Web of Two Lives. Let the quiet ease of the last section settle over you. Now, we move to a principle that is perhaps the most profound and most comforting truth within the Buddhist path, regarding relationships, pratitya samutpada, or dependent origination. In its simplest, most poetic translation, it is the wisdom of interbeing, the absolute interconnectedness of all things. When we feel the isolation of heartbreak, or the sharp sting of division within a family, our mind immediately tries to draw a hard, clear line. Here is me. There is them. We see two distinct entities, separate and independent, and we trace the narrative of how one entity hurt the other, or how one entity failed the other. We seek to assign blame, because assigning blame gives the illusion of control, the illusion that if we could just fix them or fix ourselves, the pain would vanish. The Zen perspective shatters this illusion of separation. It says, there is no me and no them in this equation. There is only us, a vast temporary weaving of conditions. A relationship, whether it is a marriage, a long friendship, or the bond between parent and child, is not a fixed object that can be stored, cleaned, and preserved. It is a dynamic process, a continuous current, constantly being created and recreated by 1,000 small, interwoven conditions. Imagine a single piece of cloth. If you look closely, you see two threads, a warp thread running vertically and a weft thread running horizontally. They are distinct threads, yet the strength, the pattern, and the very existence of the cloth depend entirely on their continuous crossing and recrossing. Remove one thread, and the cloth begins to unravel. The thread can never say, I am independent of the other thread, because its role, its meaning, its being a part of the cloth, is utterly dependent on the presence of the other. This is the profound realization of interbeing in love. The us that existed was not a merger of two finished products, but the continuous, spontaneous creation that arose when two streams of conditions flowed together. What are these conditions? They are vast and subtle. The condition of shared time, the moments of silence, the hours of listening, the space you created for each other. The condition of mood, your energy on a Tuesday morning, their patience on a difficult evening. The condition of past karma, the lessons, tendencies, and fears each of you brought from your own childhood and history. The condition of external reality, the job stress, the financial worry, the health of a parent. All these factors were not outside the relationship. They were woven into the relationship. When the relationship changes or ends, we often focus on the most visible, painful condition, the argument, the final word, the betrayal. But the deeper, softer truth is that hundreds of unseen, subtle conditions simply changed their flow. Perhaps one person began to require more space, a condition of growth. Perhaps another became weighed down by external pressure, a condition of stress. When these conditions shifted, the weaving naturally became looser. The pattern shifted, and eventually, the cloth itself changed its form. The pain you feel is the mind clinging to the memory of the beautiful pattern that was, refusing to accept the validity of the pattern that is. A master might teach this by asking a simple, profound question. Tell me, where does the light of the lamp go when it is extinguished? The student usually struggles, searching for a place. Does it go to the ceiling? Does it flee out the window? The master smiles and simply states, the light did not go anywhere. The light was simply the conditions, the oil, the wick, the match, the oxygen all being present at once. When one condition, the oil, was exhausted, the conditions for the light ceased to co-arise. The light is not a thing that can be put in a box. It is a process that can only be witnessed. Your relationship was precisely this light. It was the moment when your oil, their wick, and the shared oxygen of your lives all came together to create a luminous, warm presence. When one condition changed, when one person, for example, had to turn their attention inward to replenish their own oil, the light naturally softened or went out. It did not fail. It simply ceased to co-arise. This realization is profoundly liberating. It moves the conversation out of the harsh courtroom of blame and into the quiet laboratory of understanding. You are no longer asking, whose fault was it? You are asking, which conditions have shifted? And in this shift, there is often immense relief. You realize that your suffering is not due to a permanent character flaw in yourself or the other person, but simply the universal, impersonal truth that conditions are always in flux. When you look back on a connection with anger or regret, you are trying to isolate one thread, a mistake, a harsh word, and declare that this thread alone ruined the entire fabric. But that is impossible. The tapestry of us was made from the full spectrum of conditions: the patience, the shared silence, the forgiveness, the mutual growth, and yes, the moments of confusion and hurt. All of it was the us, Dharma practice for interbeing. Tonight, as you settle, reflect not on what they did or what you did, but on the invisible web that held you both. Identify the conditions of the beginning. What was the fertile ground? Was it a shared sense of humor, a mutual loneliness, a specific environment or goal? Observe how yourself was entirely dependent on their self being present to ignite that initial spark. Observe the shifting conditions. Can you identify the precise moment or the subtle trend where the air in the relationship changed? Was it a shift in external pressure, a lack of time, the introduction of new responsibilities? See these external factors not as distractions, but as active participants in the relationship itself. Witness the conditions of the end. The ending, too, is simply a set of new co-arising conditions. For one person, the condition of staying may have created suffering. For the other, the condition of leaving may have created suffering. Both are still bound together by the new condition of separation, which now creates a new kind of us and us, defined by memory, distance, and learning. This understanding is the ultimate expression of metta, loving kindness toward the past. It allows you to wrap the relationship in the gentle blanket of understanding, rather than leaving it exposed to the harsh elements of judgment. By seeing the interconnected web, you soften the hard edges of your ego. The ego desperately needs to believe it is the central thread, the one in control. The wisdom of interbeing shows you that you were simply one of 2,000 threads, all woven together by forces greater than your individual will. This removes the burden of total responsibility and the isolating sting of total blame. Your role was essential. Yes, but it was dependent. Their role was essential, but it was dependent. The relationship's outcome was a symphony played by all the conditions together. When sorrow rises now, do not meet it with the question, "Why me?" or "Why did they?" Instead, breathe deeply and gently ask, which conditions are present in this moment that are causing me to suffer? The answer will invariably point back to your current conditions. the condition of clinging to the past, the condition of fear for the future, the condition of believing in a separate clan of meter, fixed self that can be broken. And the moment you recognize these conditions as temporary, fluid, co-arising, you can begin to gently change them. You can introduce the condition of mindfulness into your suffering. You can introduce the condition of softness, karuna, toward your own pain. A Zen story tells of a monk and a vast lake. The lake was perfectly still one morning, reflecting the mountains with astonishing clarity. Later, a storm came, churning the surface, obscuring the mountains entirely. The young monk asked his teacher, "Is the lake now broken? Has it failed?" The master answered, "The lake has simply met the conditions of the wind and rain. The mountain is still there. The lake is still there. The clarity will return when the conditions for stillness return. Do not confuse the surface for the depth. Your peace is like that lake. Your relationship was like that surface. The storm, the conflict, the separation was a temporary, natural condition. Do not confuse the churning of the surface for a permanent brokenness in your own depth. The mountains of your own peace, your own kindness, your own capacity for love remain utterly unchanged, waiting for the conditions of stillness to return. Allow yourself to feel the comfort in this truth. You were never solely responsible for the weaving, and you are not solely responsible for the unraveling. You are simply a participant in the vast, elegant, ever-shifting flow of interbeing. Let go of the heavy thread of self-blame now. Let go of the sharp thread of resentment toward the other. Allow the great web of connection to reveal its complexity and its freedom. The flow is eternal, friend. Trust the flow. Part 3. The gift of karma. Seeds of intention. As the deep stillness begins to anchor you, let us turn our attention to the second great concept that governs the realm of the heart, karma. In the hurried, modern view, karma is often misunderstood as a cosmic balance sheet, a system of reward and punishment. If you do something bad will happen back to you. This view is too simple, too harsh, and often too focused on external, measurable events. In the profound wisdom of Buddhism, particularly within the contemplative traditions, karma is not fate. It is not destiny. Karma is intention. It is the powerful, originating energy of cetana, the deliberate, conscious will that drives all actions of body, speech, and mind. The Buddha said, "It is intention that I call kamma, karma." When we apply this deep truth to our relationships, the perspective shifts entirely. We stop looking for an external force judging our past failures, and we start looking inward at the seeds of intention that we continuously planted in the soil of the connection. A relationship is not a building made of stone. It is a garden made of intentions. The life and quality of your garden, the ease, the trust, the joy, the peace, or the struggle, the tension, the worry, are direct results of the seeds you and the other person intentionally or unintentionally planted. Consider the difficult conversations, the moments of conflict, or the deep silences of misunderstandings that haunt your memory. The karma of that moment was not the harsh word that was spoken, nor the slamming door that followed. The karma was the intention that lay beneath those surface actions. Did the harsh word come from an intention of protection, the fear that if you weren't loud, you wouldn't be heard? Did it come from an intention of control, the deep-seated need to make the other person conform to your expectation? Or did it, perhaps, come from an intention of self-pity, the desire for the other person to recognize and validate your own suffering? The quality of the relationship is determined by the cumulative weight of your most frequently planted intentions. If you consistently planted the seeds of fear, the intention to hide your true feelings, to avoid conflict, to build walls, the harvest will be distance, distrust, and eventually isolation. If you consistently planted the seeds of generosity, the intention to listen without judgment, to offer space for the other person's pain, to give your presence freely, the harvest will be closeness, security, and quiet, enduring connection. The great Zen teachers understood that the most powerful practice is not what you do in the monastery, but the quality of the mind you bring to your daily interactions, how you make a cup of tea, how you listen to a grievance, how you meet your own emotional pain. In relationship, this translates to the quality of your presence. Are you present with the intention to receive or the intention to demand? The suffering you may be experiencing now, the difficulty of letting go, is not a punishment for past mistakes. It is simply the final, inevitable ripening of seeds of clinging that you planted long ago. The clinging mind plants seeds of possession. You belong to me. The open mind plants seeds of respect. I respect your freedom. The clinging mind plants seeds of expectation. You must fulfill my needs. The open mind plants seeds of offering. How can I offer peace to this moment? Take a deep, slow breath now, and gently turn your awareness to the area of your heart, the seat of these intentions. If you feel worry about a relationship, a conflict with a child, a persistent tension with a partner, or the difficulty of a lingering loss, do not focus on the other person's karma. Focus entirely on the quality of your own presence. Ask yourself, in the moments that mattered most, was the deepest intention of my heart for peace or for victory? This is not a question of blame, but of illumination. It is the purest expression of self-responsibility. When you can honestly witness the intentions you planted, the noble ones, and the fearful ones, you begin to understand the conditions that created your present reality. And understanding the cause is the first step to dissolving the effect. The profound comfort in the doctrine of karma is this: because karma is intention, you can start planting different seeds right now. The past harvest is what it is, but the future crop begins with the intention of this very moment. You cannot change the past action, but you can instantly change the intention with which you relate to the memory of that action. If you remember a harsh word you spoke, the old intention, perhaps fear or control, caused the word. The new intention can be one of forgiveness. The intention to forgive yourself for being human, for being fearful, for being imperfect. By planting that seed of self-forgiveness, you instantly shift the karma of the memory from one of guilt to one of gentle understanding. If you are struggling with a current tension, your old intention might be to solve the problem immediately, which leads to rigidity. Your new intention can be to simply breathe with the problem, to offer the intention of space and patience. This simple shift in intentional energy softens the entire emotional field. A beautiful analogy comes from the story of the farmer who is frustrated by the weeds in his field. He spends all his energy pulling the biggest weeds, but more keep growing. A wise woman tells him, "You focus too much on the pulling and not enough on the planting." The greatest karma is not to remove the negative, but to saturate the field with the positive. Plant seeds of kindness, seeds of deep listening, seeds of quiet, patient presence. When the field is full of good intention, there is simply less space for the weeds of fear to grow. This shift of focus from reaction, pulling weeds, to creation, planting seeds, is the true discipline of Buddhist practice in relationship. It asks you to be incredibly honest about the underlying energy you bring to every exchange. When you look at your family, or your former partner, or a difficult friend, what is the deep, subtle, originating intention of your gaze? Is it to see their beauty, or to find their flaws? Is it to offer peace, or to find comfort for your own anxiety? The moment your intention becomes clear, the path forward becomes clear. Because the energy you emanate in that moment is the only thing you truly control, and it is the only thing that creates new karma. As you drift closer to sleep, let go of the burden of the past's what-ifs. The past has already fully ripened. Its lessons are complete. Your sacred work now is to protect the future harvest by tending to the present intention. Let your breathing become the focal point of your intention. Every inhale can be an intention of receiving the reality of the moment, exactly as it is. Every exhale can be an intention of softness, softening your resistance, softening the tension in your body, softening the sharpness of your judgment. This quiet, persistent effort, this discipline of the heart, is the most potent form of healing karma. It is not glamorous or dramatic. It is simply the radical, moment-to-moment choice to meet the world with kindness. Starting with yourself, rest now in the knowledge that your deepest capacity for peace is never diminished by external events, but only by your own fearful intentions. And that capacity, that clear intention for peace, is available to you right now, washing over you like a quiet, gentle tide. The practice of karma is the recognition that you are, in this very moment, the primary creator of your own future. Choose your seeds wisely. Choose to plant peace. Part 4. Self-compassion in the wake of conflict. Allow the understanding of karma, the wisdom of intention, to gently lead you toward a quiet, necessary haven. The practice of karuna, or compassion, applied not to the world, but to your very own struggling heart. When the pain of relationship arises, whether through conflict, misunderstanding, or separation, the mind often turns into a harsh, unforgiving courtroom. We become the inner judge and jury, prosecuting ourselves or the other person with relentless efficiency. I should have known better. I shouldn't have said that. If I were just different, this wouldn't have happened. This self-criticism, this relentless shaming, is a secondary suffering, a heavy burden layered upon the original ache. The Zen masters understand that to criticize yourself is to create a deeper, more isolating form of suffering than the conflict itself. It is the ego's final act of clinging to the idea of a perfect, unchanging self that never makes mistakes. The wisdom of the Dharma gently asks us to soften the inner judge. Why? Because the very act of beating yourself up is a form of violence. It is an act of separation, cutting yourself off from the universal, shared truth that to be human is to be imperfect, to be flawed, and to be in pain. Self-compassion is not self-indulgence. It is a profound discipline. It is the radical decision to stay present with your own discomfort, to witness your pain without attempting to fix it, judge it, or run from it. Imagine a close, trusted friend coming to you, weeping because they made a difficult mistake in a relationship. They spoke too quickly. They trusted too deeply. They failed to be present when needed. How would you speak to them? You would naturally offer a soft tone, a gentle understanding. You would likely say, "It's okay. You did the best you could with the awareness you had. This pain is part of learning." Now, listen to the voice you use when you speak to your own heart. Is it the voice of that gentle friend, or is it the hard, cold voice of the critical judge? The Buddha taught that all beings desire happiness and wish to avoid suffering. We often apply this truth outward, wishing peace for others, wishing them ease. The practice of self-compassion simply begins by applying that wish to the nearest being, yourself. When you are lying awake, tracing the sharp edges of regret, those feelings, regret, sorrow, shame, are conditions arising in the mind. They are not you. They are simply clouds passing through the sky of your awareness. Instead of fighting the clouds, try this simple, calming practice. Acknowledge the pain. Notice the physical location of the pain. Is it a tightness in your chest? A hollow feeling in your stomach? A heavy weight on your shoulders? Gently name the sensation. "Ah, I see you," tightness. Recognize the universality. Breathe into that pain and whisper to yourself, "This is a moment of suffering. Suffering is part of the human experience. I am not alone in this." This moves the pain from an isolated flaw to a shared condition. Offer kindness. Place a hand over your heart or on your cheek, a simple gesture of warmth and comfort, and offer a simple phrase of kindness. "May I be kind to myself in this moment. May I give myself the patience I need." This gentle gesture shifts your relationship with the pain from one of adversary to one of caregiver. You stop being the victim of your own sorrow, and you become the quiet, loving host who welcomes the difficult guest into your space. In the midst of relationship turmoil, we often feel immense pressure to appear strong, fixed, and fine. This pressure is the heavy armor of the ego. It prevents us from connecting with ourselves and, ironically, prevents genuine connection with others. When you finally allow yourself to be vulnerable, to acknowledge your own fatigue and hurt, you are not showing weakness. You are engaging in the most powerful form of emotional truth. A Zen story speaks of a young monk who came to his master after a public failure. He felt deep shame and was hiding. The master found him and simply brought him a warm bowl of rice and quiet, strong tea. The master did not lecture him on his mistake. He did not analyze the situation. He simply said, "The failure is complete. Now, the nourishment begins. You must be well fed for the path ahead." The only work left is to care for the body that experienced the fall. This is the essence of self-compassion, recognizing that the event has passed, and the only remaining duty is to care for the being that endured it. The care, the nourishment, is the forgiveness. When we fail to extend compassion to ourselves, we carry that harsh judgment into every new interaction. Our fear of making another mistake makes us rigid, reactive, and closed off. We begin to approach new relationships not with open arms, but with a defensive shield, anticipating the next criticism, the next disappointment. But when you truly forgive yourself for the imperfections of the past, for the poor choices, the missed opportunities, the moments of blindness, you approach the present moment with a lighter step. You show up as someone who is learning, not someone who is defined by their mistakes. This open, non-defensive presence is the greatest gift you can offer any relationship. Tonight, let the soft light of compassion penetrate the darkest corners of your self-judgment. You are not defined by the pain you feel, nor by the mistakes you made. You are the continuous capacity for peace, learning, and kindness that resides beneath the churning surface. The most profound realization in relationship wisdom is that you cannot truly extend peace to another person until you have first cultivated it within yourself. Your relationship with the world is always a mirror of your relationship with your own heart. If your heart is a courtroom, your world will feel like a constant trial. If your heart is a garden, your world will feel like a continuous unfolding. Choose the garden. Choose the softness. Choose to be the gentle friend to yourself now. Let the deep, soothing kindness of self-compassion be the anchor that allows your body to finally drift toward rest. Part 5. The Empty Hand. Letting go of the story of mine. Sink now into a deeper layer of stillness. Feel the gentle, supportive weight of the surface beneath you, a silent anchor in this fluid journey. We have explored impermanence and interbeing, the active currents of relationship. Now, we approach perhaps the most challenging and yet most liberating truth in the entire Dharma, the concept of anatta, or no self. In the context of personal identity, no self means that there is no fixed, permanent, independent entity called I or me. Instead, you are a continuous flow of physical and mental processes. When we apply this profound wisdom to relationships, the concept takes the form of the emptiness of the connection itself, the understanding that the relationship has no fixed, independent, core essence that can be possessed. The mind loves to create solid, labeled entities. It takes the flow of shared experience and freezes it, calling it my marriage, my daughter, my true love, or my best friend. The moment the mind attaches the word my or mine to the connection, it begins to create a powerful illusion of ownership and permanence. When the relationship ends or changes, the pain is not simply the loss of the other person. It is the agonizing collapse of the solid idea that the mind had constructed. Zen teaching often speaks of shunyata, or emptiness. But emptiness is not a void. It is the radical realization that everything is empty of independent, fixed existence. The relationship is not an object. It is a flowing wave, empty of any fixed substance. Imagine holding a handful of sand. The mind immediately labels it sand. But look closer. It is a collection of tiny, individual, separate grains. The sand is only a concept that the mind constructs to unify the scattered elements. The moment you open your hand and the individual grains drift away, the concept of the handful of sand vanishes. Your relationship was just like that. It was the moment-to-moment, co-arising of two individuals, held together by shared conditions, forming a concept, the couple, the family, but containing no single, permanent substance of its own. Therefore, when the relationship dissolves, there is nothing real to lose, because there was nothing fixed to possess. This realization is the ultimate freedom from the suffering of clinging. The great struggle and heartbreak is the hand that refuses to open. We hold on tightly to the story of how good it was, the story of what was promised, the story of what was stolen. These stories, these ideas, are the true prison of the heart. The Zen master Mazu was once approached by a monk who asked, "What is the meaning of the relationship between master and student?" Mazu, in his typical jarring wisdom, simply held up his empty hand. The monk, seeking a profound intellectual answer, was confused. The master, seeing his confusion, slowly curled his fingers into a fist and asked, "What is this?" The monk replied, "A fist." Mazu then opened his hand again and asked, "And what is this?" The monk said, "An open hand." Mazu's lesson was a koan of non-duality. The fist and the open hand are simply two temporary forms of the same hand. The relationship that existed and the separation that now exists are merely two temporary forms of the continuous flow of your life. The hand, your awareness, your capacity for connection remains. When we are obsessed with the fist, the tight, fixed form of the relationship we cling to, we miss the inherent freedom of the open hand. The suffering you feel in this moment is the residue of the mind's attachment to the form of the fist. It is the need for the relationship to be a specific, permanent shape. But the profound lesson of no self in relationship is that true love, metta, is not found in the form, but in the boundless capacity of the heart that holds both the fist and the open hand with equal acceptance. Let us practice opening the hand now. Breathe in and feel the tension of the fist, the tightness of wanting things back the way they were, the desire to control the narrative. Breathe out and let your fingers gently unclench. Allow the story of mind to soften. This is the great, quiet work of the spiritual path in times of emotional difficulty, to transform the feeling of loss into the realization of freedom. You are free from the fixed idea. You are free from the weight of expectations you placed on the other person. You are free from the heavy emotional garment you wore in that specific role. The realization of emptiness is not a cold detachment. It is the warmest form of surrender. It is the recognition that because the connection had no fixed self, it also had no fixed boundary. The essence of the shared experience, the lessons, the kindness, the mutual growth did not disappear. It was simply absorbed back into the continuous flow of interbeing. It has become a part of the air you breathe. You do not need to hold it tightly. You simply need to breathe. If you are struggling with a difficult memory, watch how quickly the mind adds the label, "This was my failure. That was their cruelty." This is the mind creating a hard, permanent substance, where there is only a fluid, ephemeral condition. Try to remove the label and simply observe the raw sensation of the memory. Where does the feeling arise? How long does it last? By watching the memory without the fixed label, you see that it, too, is empty of fixed existence. It is simply a cluster of feelings and thoughts passing through. You cannot lose what you never possessed. And because the relationship, like all things, was empty of independent self, its capacity for teaching, for shaping your heart, remains boundless. Rest now, friend. Allow the quiet power of the empty hand to soothe your soul. The weight you feel is not the weight of the world, but the weight of your own gripping. Release the concept of mine. Release the need to define, label, or possess the fluid current of life. There is deep peace in the unburdened space of the open hand. Sink into that peace. Part 6. The practice of right speech and silence. Settle now and let us turn our attention from the inner landscape of the heart to the external act of communication specifically. The practice of samavaka, or right speech, as it applies to the delicate and often challenging arena of love and family life. Our words are not just sounds. They are powerful acts of creation. They are the most immediate and direct manifestation of our karma, our intention in the world. In the context of relationships, a single word spoken with kindness can heal years of distance, just as a thoughtless word, delivered in haste, can plant a seed of bitterness that lasts a lifetime. When communication breaks down, when arguments erupt, or when silence grows cold, it is usually because the conversation has ceased to be about understanding and has become entirely about defense or victory. We speak not to connect, but to justify ourselves, to prove our point, or to manipulate the other person into validating our suffering. The practice of right speech is founded on 4 simple principles, all rooted in compassion and truth. To speak what is true, sakha, not merely factual truth, but the deeper truth of the heart. To speak what is useful, sadhukha, to speak only if the words will genuinely contribute to peace, clarity, or connection. To speak what is timely, kala, to know when the moment is ripe for conversation, and when silence is the wiser choice. To speak what is kind, piya, to couch the truth, however difficult, in language that is offered with gentleness. The most challenging of these is often the second. To speak what is useful. In the midst of conflict, we feel a burning need to unload all our pent-up resentment and fear. We believe that if we just say everything we feel, we will achieve catharsis. But often, this torrent of reaction is not useful. It simply compounds the suffering for both parties. It is emotional vomiting. Right speech asks us to pause. Before you speak a difficult word to your partner, your child, or your parent, ask yourself, what is the intention of this speech? Is it to create peace or to release my own tension onto them? If the answer is merely to release tension, the wiser path is to practice noble silence first. Noble silence is not a punitive withholding of speech. It is the deliberate act of tending to your inner landscape before offering anything external. It is the wisdom to know that the emotional storm must pass within you before you attempt to navigate the storm with another person. A Zen master, observing 2 disciples who were constantly arguing, gave them a task. For the next 3 days, you must speak only 3 sentences per day to each other, and each sentence must be utterly essential. By the end of the first day, the arguments had stopped. By the end of the 3rd day, they found themselves in deep, quiet harmony. The constraints on their speech forced them to listen with intensity and to speak with precision and genuine care. They realized how much of their daily speech was mere noise, fueled by ego and reaction. In your own life, when you feel the hot energy of a reaction rising in your throat, this is the moment to invoke noble silence. The silence is not empty. It is full of profound activity. You are listening to your own fear. You are observing the anxiety that is driving the need to speak. You are softening your intention. You are consciously shifting your intention from defense to clarity. You are protecting the shared space. You are ensuring that the karma you introduce into the relationship is one of patience, not hostility. The true karma of relationship is the quality of the atmosphere you leave behind in the room after a discussion. Is the air heavy with unspoken resentment, or is it clear, calm, and open for the next interaction? The energy you contribute to that shared space is the greatest offering you can make. If you must address a difficult truth, right speech advises you to couch it in the language of the present moment and personal experience, rather than the language of absolute judgment and fixed identity. Instead of saying, "You are always careless and you never listen," which assigns a fixed, negative identity, anatta, violation, you might pause, breathe, and say, "When I see this specific situation, I feel fear in my own heart that my needs are not being heard. I want to connect with you about this specific incident." This is the language of connection. It shifts the focus from you, the accusation, to I, the experience. It respects the other person's freedom from a fixed label and invites them into a dialogue about your current emotional condition, which is the only thing you truly own. Tonight, as you settle, allow the memory of any past harsh or reactive speech to dissolve. The energy of those words has passed. Your task now is to focus on the intention of your future silence and your future speech. Before you drift to sleep, take 3 slow, deliberate breaths, and with each exhale, make a quiet, soft intention for your future communications. First, exhale. May my words create peace. Second exhale. May I listen with the intention to understand, not to reply. Third exhale. May I choose silence over reactivity. This is the great, gentle power of relationship wisdom, the realization that the smallest act, a gentle pause, a carefully chosen word, can dramatically alter the course of 2 lives. The profound silence you cultivate now will be the deep well from which all future right speech will arise. Rest in the quiet certainty of your own mindful presence. Part 7. The Mandala of 2 Hearts. When form fades, essence remains. We drift now toward an image of profound, quiet beauty, the metaphor of the sand mandala, a symbol used often in the contemplative traditions of the East to illustrate the ultimate truth of change and the enduring nature of essence. Imagine a group of monks laboring for days, sometimes weeks, pouring millions of grains of colored sand through thin metal funnels. With precise, meditative focus, they create a vast, intricate map of the cosmos, a sacred image of great symmetry and luminous color. This mandala is a visualization of wholeness, harmony, and profound connection. It is the peak, perfect form of their spiritual practice. But the final, most sacred act of the mandala is its deliberate destruction. Once the work is complete, once the beauty is fully realized and appreciated, the monks do not preserve it. They do not cling to the form. Instead, the chief monk takes a ritual broom or brush and, with a single sweeping motion, begins to push the millions of grains of sand into the center. The exquisite form, the lines, the colors, the entire structure is instantly dissolved back into a single, undifferentiated pile of colored dust. This dust is then gathered and poured into a flowing river or a moving stream, returning the colored particles to the earth and water, symbolizing the return of all things to the vast flow of existence. This is the most powerful image we can hold when grappling with the dissolution or change of a relationship. Your love, your family structure, your friendship, the beautiful, intricate connection you built with another person, was your own unique, sacred mandala. It was created grain by grain. Shared experiences, common goals, moments of tenderness, acts of forgiveness. It reached a point of perfect, felt beauty, a form that gave meaning to your being. life. The difficulty you feel now, the heartbreak, is the mind's resistance to the act of the broom. You are desperately trying to preserve the mandala, to keep the sand fixed in the pattern it once held. But the wisdom of the Dharma gently reminds you. The meaning of the mandala was never in the sand's arrangement. The meaning was in the act of creation, the shared intention, and the ultimate, necessary act of release. When the form of the relationship fades, when the title changes, when the shared house is empty, when the daily routine dissolves, the essence does not disappear. The energy, the lessons, the light you both shared, has been absorbed into the river of your own being. It has become part of your karma, part of your capacity for future kindness, and part of the deep understanding that now resides in your heart. The loss you feel is the loss of the form, not the loss of the essence. If you were to gather the sand from a mandala after it was swept away, the dust itself still holds all the color and the history of the original design. It is simply no longer held in a rigid structure. In the same way, the love you experienced has become the color of your heart. It remains as the ability to be vulnerable, the wisdom to forgive, the capacity to trust. These are the gifts that cannot be swept away. The monks do not weep when the mandala is destroyed. They know that clinging to the beautiful form would violate the very truth the mandala was meant to teach. Impermanence is not failure. It is completion. And this completion, this dispersal of the sand into the river, is an act of profound spiritual generosity. It ensures that the creative energy is not trapped in a fixed form, but returned to the universe to nourish the next creation, the next connection, the next work of art. If you are holding regret, or anger, or deep sorrow now, you are essentially trying to stop the flow of the river into which the mandala dust was poured. You are trying to to recreate the pattern that the universe has already chosen to dissolve. Tonight, let go of the dust. Let the memory remain in its true sacred context, as a beautiful, necessary stage in your ongoing journey. Take a slow, conscious breath and visualize the single, peaceful sweep of the monk's brush. Watch the intricate lines blur and soften into a single pile of luminous dust. See that dust gathered gently and then released freely, generously, completely into a stream of clear, running water. As the colored particles drift away, carry this quiet understanding into your rest. The love that was offered was real. The lessons that were learned are permanent. The form that contained them was always, necessarily, temporary. The wisdom of the mandala frees you to appreciate fully what was, without needing to control what is. You are not broken. You are simply witnessing a beautiful process of transformation. The energy of that connection is now flowing through you, refining your spirit, preparing you for the next equally beautiful, equally fleeting manifestation of light. Rest in the integrity of the completed cycle. The essence remains. Part 8. Right effort, moving with clarity, not struggle. As the gentle waves of wisdom wash over you, bringing the profound calm of the Dharma, let us now turn to the practical application of this piece. Samavayama, or right effort, specifically applied to the process of healing and moving forward after difficulty in a relationship. When we are recovering from heartbreak, conflict, or loss, our mind often operates in two destructive extremes. Either we engage in struggle, trying too hard to fix or forget, or we descend into inertia, giving up and withdrawing entirely. Both extremes are forms of clinging. Clinging to an impossible outcome, or clinging to a fixed identity of pain. Right effort is the middle way. It is often described as the perfect tension a lute string must hold, not too tight that it snaps, and not too loose that it gives no tone. It is sincerity, without striving, the energy of genuine intention, guided by clarity, rather than urgency. In the context of relationships, right effort means choosing to act from a place of presence rather than reaction. It is the decision to move with clarity, not with compulsion. Consider the four noble aspects of right effort. Preventing the unwholesome from arising. This means consciously recognizing and stopping the harmful mental patterns, the obsessive dwelling on the past, the fantasy of future revenge, the bitter self-criticism before they consume you. When a harmful thought arises, you don't fight it, you simply label it. Judgment is here, and gently redirect your attention to your breath, abandoning the unwholesome that has arisen. This means when you find yourself caught in a wave of sorrow or anger, you do not feed it with further thoughts. You allow the wave to crest and pass without inviting it to stay for tea. You let the feeling be, but you refuse to let it drive your actions, arousing the wholesome that has not yet arisen. This is the positive work, the conscious choice to cultivate kindness, forgiveness, and gentle focus. If your mind is consumed by the us that has ended, you actively choose to turn your attention to the joy or peace that is available to the eye. In this very moment, the taste of your morning tea, the warmth of the sun, the quiet dignity of your own resting body, maintaining the wholesome that has arisen. This is the consistency of practice. It is not the grand, dramatic gesture, but the simple, repeated act of choosing clarity over confusion, kindness over harshness, patience over haste. The healing path is rarely a straight line. It is a series of small, intentional steps. Right effort teaches you that your effort should be focused not on controlling the destination, whether the relationship will reconcile, whether the pain will vanish, but on ensuring the quality of your step right now. If your step is taken with anger, your path will be paved with stones. If your step is taken with sorrow, your path will feel heavy. If your step is taken with mindfulness, with gentle, non-striving awareness, the path itself becomes the meditation. A simple Zen teaching advises, when walking, just walk. When sitting, just sit. Above all, don't wobble. In the emotional realm, this means when you are practicing healing, just heal. When you are giving yourself space, just accept the space. Do not allow your mind to wobble back and forth between past resentment and future anxiety. The greatest trap of struggle is the illusion that healing requires frantic activity. We think we must do something big to make the pain go away. We must call. We must confront. We must rush into a new distraction. This frantic energy is fueled by fear, not clarity. It is the ego demanding an instant return to comfort. Right effort is the quiet power of the gardener. The gardener plants the seed, intention, waters it gently, mindfulness, and then steps back, trusting the natural process of growth. They do not yell at the soil or frantically dig up the seed every hour to check its progress. They understand that true growth happens in stillness, below the surface, guided by the immense, quiet intelligence of life itself. If you find yourself awake tonight, caught in the cycle of analyzing a past conversation or dreading a future encounter. Practice this gentle withdrawal of effort. Do not try to solve the problem in the dark. Instead, simply shift your effort from the content of the thought to the container of the thought, your breath. Focus your energy on the simple, reliable, present moment act of breathing. This is the right effort of the moment, the gentle energy required to maintain simple, unwavering presence. As your body relaxes deeply, let go of the burden of the big, dramatic effort. Let go of the illusion of control. Your healing is not a frantic race. It is a slow, quiet unfolding. Your only true effort is the gentle, continuous commitment to being present with yourself. Rest now, trusting that the energy of right intention, sustained with patience, is the only force needed for deep, lasting transformation. Part 9. Trusting the great rhythm of samsara. Rest deeper now. Let the breath guide you into a quiet, receptive state. In the journey through life, particularly through the emotional upheavals of relationships, we often feel like we are tossed about by chaos. The good times feel like accidental peaks, and the low times feel like eternal, punishing valleys. The Buddhist worldview offers a gentle, expansive perspective on this movement, known as samsara, the continuous flow, the great cycle of arising and passing away, the endless sequence of birth, death, rebirth, joy, and sorrow. Samsara, in the Mahayana tradition, is not seen as merely a wheel of suffering from which we must escape. It is also the vast, intelligent, and necessary rhythm of life itself. When applied to our personal and relational struggles, this view shifts our understanding of the low points. The pain you feel now, the difficulty of separation, the depth of your regret is not a mistake in the system. It is not evidence that you have failed or that life is fundamentally cruel. It is simply the trough of the wave, the necessary downward sweep that precedes the next upward surge. We desire stability, but life offers us only rhythm. Imagine the ocean tide. The tide must go out fully for the tide to be able to come in fully. If you tried to hold the ocean at high tide, you would be fighting the immense, patient gravitational forces of the entire universe. The ocean knows that the low ebb is not the end of the water, but merely the condition required for the next inflow. Your emotional experience in relationship is exactly like this tide. The moments of deep connection, effortless harmony, and mutual understanding are the high tide. The moments of struggle, disagreement, distance, and loss are the low tide. When we cling to the high tide, we fear the low ebb. We resist the natural recession of energy and closeness. This resistance, this fear, is the source of the deepest suffering. The wisdom of samsara encourages us to see the low points not as failure, but as depth. It is only in the low tide that the riverbed is exposed. It is only when the water recedes that you can see the rocks, the history, the sediment, all the things that were hidden during the high tide. In the same way, the painful, difficult periods in your relationships, the ending, the conflict, the disappointment, are the moments when the deep, foundational truths of your own being are exposed. Your attachment is revealed. Your deepest fears are brought to light. Your habitual reactive patterns are made visible. These moments are not meant to punish you. They are meant to teach you. They are offering you the immense gift of clarity, showing you exactly where the work needs to be done within yourself. A master would tell a student struggling with loss, "Do not curse the winter. It is only in the cold, barren season that the tree can draw its energy deep into the roots, preparing for the next flowering. If there were no winter, there would be no spring. The suffering you are experiencing now is the emotional winter. It is the necessary time for the energy of your heart to withdraw from external focus and settle into the deep, quiet roots of your own presence. This withdrawal is not isolation. It is replenishment. The path forward, therefore, is not about finding the next external high tide, but about trusting the intrinsic intelligence of the rhythm you are currently in. Trusting the rhythm. Stop fighting the low ebb. Allow yourself the full, genuine experience of sorrow, distance, or grief, without judgment. This is the right acceptance of the present condition. Observe the exposed riverbed. Use this time of exposure to look clearly at the cane, emotional rocks and patterns that have been revealed. What did the loss teach you about your need for control? What did the conflict reveal about your use of speech? This clear seeing is the engine of wisdom. Prepare for the inflow. Focus your energy not on changing the tide, but on nourishing the roots. This means practicing self-compassion, choosing right effort, and maintaining the quiet, steady intention of peace. This trust in the rhythm, this fundamental acceptance of the cycle, is the key to dissolving anxiety. When you truly trust the great process of samsara, you realize that the pain is temporary, the joy is temporary, and the one constant is the boundless space of awareness that holds both. Sink into that vastness now. Let the tight hold on the past and the fear of the future soften into the quiet certainty of the present moment. You are not a victim of the cycle. You are the awareness, witnessing the elegance of the cycle. You are being carried, gently, wisely, by the immense, quiet intelligence of life. Let go and allow yourself to be carried into rest. Part 10. Your foundation of presence. What remains? We have come to the end of our journey tonight, having traversed the great cycles of impermanence, interbeing, and karma within the deep terrain of the heart. Now, as you rest on the very edge of sleep, we return to the quietest, most essential question. What remains when all the forms have faded? When the relationship changes, when the conflict ends, when the sorrow softens, we often search for a new external pillar to lean on, a new story, a new person, a new distraction. But the final, most liberating wisdom of the Dharma is that your true, permanent foundation is not external. It is the unwavering ground of your own presence. Your presence, your capacity for simple, non-judgmental awareness, is the only thing in your life that is not dependent on conditions. It is not dependent on whether someone loves you, whether you succeed or fail, or whether your family is whole or scattered. It is the vast, open sky of your consciousness, watching the clouds of life drift by. The difficulty in relationships often stemmed from both people seeking validation and solidity from the other. We treated the other person as the roof over our heads, the walls of our shelter. When they moved, our whole house felt unstable. But the Zen teaching gently shows us that the roof and walls are temporary structures. The true foundation is the earth beneath your feet, the ground of your own being, and that ground has been with you, stable and silent, through every connection, every conflict, and every moment of peace. The essence of the Buddha's teaching is to shift your identity from the changing forms of life, the roles, the stories, the relationships, to the unchanging essence of awareness, the presence. When you rest your identity entirely on your presence, the changing world of relationships no longer threatens your core stability. You can participate, fully loving, deeply, forgiving generously, connecting wholeheartedly without the desperate, anxious need to clinch or control the outcome. This shift in foundation is the ultimate act of trusting the universe. It is the recognition that the intelligence that moves the tides and changes the seasons is the same intelligence that operates through your own breath. You no longer need to micromanage your life or your heart. You simply need to rest in the awareness that is already well and whole. Your only true, enduring practice now is to return again and again to the simplicity of being present. When you wake in the morning, the first act of the day is not to reach for your phone or your worries, but to rest for a moment in the sheer fact of your presence. When you speak, let your words arise from the space of quiet awareness, not from the tight space of reaction. When you meet sorrow, meet it with the space that observes the sorrow, the space that knows, I am not this pain. I am the vastness that holds the pain. This quiet commitment to presence is the new, wholesome karma you create. It is the seed that will grow into the next flowering of connection in your life, a connection rooted in freedom, not fear. Let the final thoughts of the day be simple and pure. Let them be a deep sense of gratitude for the lessons learned, for the depth gained, and for the simple, profound capacity of your heart to endure, to heal, and to remain open. Rest now, knowing that your foundation is secure. You are whole, you are capable, and you are exactly where you need to be in this vast, elegant, and ever-moving cycle of life. Let the last remnants of the day's concerns drift away with your breath. You are safe. You are held. You are home.